Right, so today we're going to be talking about and catching up with Ghost Rider. Right, so new Ghost Rider book. I'd say new. It's a few months old, and by a few months old, I mean it's 7 issues in. But there was also a global pandemic, which is still going on. But that kind of delayed it for like a few months, and then there was like the 6 months beforehand. Then like issue 7 released like a few like at the start of this month. And I've only just gotten around to reading the first 7 issues, so this is going to be a bit longer than the Thor one, which was only 5 issues I had to talk about. But also, look at that. That's new, isn't it? That is the big map thing that came with Secret Wars all the way back in 2015. And if you know a little bit about me, you know that Secret Wars was the first comic thing that I ever actually got really invested into. That was the starting point for me and my love of comics in general, not just Marvel. Like I'd been following like Marvel TV shows, like the old Spider-Man cartoon, the Hulk cartoon, everything, and the subsequent movies for like the whole of my life essentially. And then I started picking up the comics. I started with the Ultimate Graphic Novel Collection because that came out and there was adverts on the TV for it. And I was like, there's actually adverts on the TV for comic books. What is my life turning into? I've got to get me some of that. And then Secret Wars happened and I started, diving in deep head first into floppies, and I never looked back. Well, I did when Civil War 2 happened the next year. And that was a doozy. I took a year out and then I came back in and I haven't looked back since. But today we're going to be talking about Ghost Rider, which is a book that I've never actually, I've never been a big Ghost Rider fan. I've always been intrigued by him. I've always liked the design of Ghost Rider, but I never knew a lot about the actual character. And the only thing that I'd read with him in it was Spirit of Vengeance. It was, I think it was like the Road to Damnation. I think that was what the storyline was called. I did a video on it, but that was the only thing that I read. And it wasn't really a good introduction, because it was just kind of like, yeah, this is a Ghost Rider story, but it's just a mere Ghost Rider story. What this is it's a sequel to Doctor Strange Damnation, which was Mephisto taking over Las Vegas, and everything just went to shit, essentially. And that ended with Ghost Rider. Mephisto got locked up in his Las Vegas, motel thing, or his Las Vegas, nightclub. And he's now a prisoner, and he's being, guarded by Wong. And it's all very interesting. I think it's just an interesting idea, and Johnny Blaze took over as the King of Hell. So we start with him as the King of Hell, and he's not liked by the other demons that he's got to look after, essentially. And a few demons escape. He's got to go find them, but there's this subplot of him being corrupted by Hell, and so Danny Ketch, who is the other Ghost Rider, the Ghost Rider after Johnny Blaze, and also Johnny Blaze's half brother, which I didn't know was a thing, but apparently he's Johnny Blaze's half brother, which is kind of cool. But he's got to go after Johnny Blaze, whilst also, you know, tangling with his own like self-doubt, and he doesn't really want to be the Ghost Rider. He kind of hates everything to do with it. But Johnny Blaze and Danny Ketch end up having a fight. Danny Ketch ends up having the spirit of vengeance ripped out of him, and he then goes on like this. He meets up with this other character and then gets taken to Limbo. Gets told, right, you need to fight this other being to get your powers back. Obviously, he doesn't get his powers back, and he also fails. He also like gets beaten the shit out of, and this other like demon-like deity from Limbo basically turns Danny Ketch into the spirit of corruption, which is really cool because it's separating the two characters. We have Danny Ketch doing his thing, and we got Johnny Blaze doing his thing. And Johnny Blaze has gone back to the casino where Mephisto's being like locked up, where he's like a prisoner, and just breaks him out, chains him up, and like ties him to the back of his like hell cycle, and just drives off. But he also has a fight with, Johnny Blaze also has a fight with Wong, which is really cool, and it ends with him using the penance stare on Wong, which just shows like, I think that's the tipping point, because everything else leading up to that is like, yeah, Johnny Blaze has been a little bit more violent than usual, but they're all demons, they're all evil. There's nothing like clicking telling you, right, he's being possessed, he's being corrupted. This is the point where you're like, yeah, he's corrupted. Yeah, he wouldn't usually do that. He wouldn't usually penance stare Wong. And then he just drives off. And meanwhile, Wolverine and Punisher team up, and they're like, right, so a guy fitting the Ghost Rider's description killed a bunch of people. We've got to find Danny Ketch, because he's the only Ghost Rider that, like, one of them's in hell and the other one drives around in a sports car. It's got to be Danny Ketch. And then they go to find Danny Ketch. They find out that Danny Ketch is no longer the spirit of vengeance, he's the spirit of corruption. And then they have a fight. That fight ends, and they go and fight Johnny Blaze. Meanwhile, Lilith is in hell, and she's trying to take over. She's trying to kill Johnny Blaze by like tempting him more and more to the dark side, so that the actual Earth heroes have to kill Johnny Blaze. But hopefully, Danny Ketch, Johnny Blaze, Johnny Blaze is he's like confronted by Doctor Strange, and they have this kind of back and forth where it's like, you left me in hell for what felt like centuries, and I've gone mental and it's your fault. And Doctor Strange is just like, no, I was trying to find a way to get you back that wasn't going to end in utter chaos. And then Mephisto brings up the fact that Doctor Strange can now use his hands, which obviously is a thing that's been going on in Doctor Strange's book, Surgeon Supreme. And he brings up this point that Doctor Strange hasn't actually been looking for a way to get him out. He's been too preoccupied with his own problems. Which is true, because if you've been reading the Doctor Strange book, he's been preoccupied with his own problems. And he hasn't had time to look for ways to bring Johnny Blaze out of hell, because he's been in space, he's been fighting Dormammu, and he's also almost been killed by the Wrecking Crew, of all people. But yeah, we've got this point where Johnny Blaze is almost looking like Hellboy, where he's got the horns just all the way out, and he's just completely gone mental. and he's about to kill Doctor Strange, and that's when Wolverine, Danny Ketch, and Punisher show up. And like, you can't do this. And a load of demons come in. Lilith makes her like big like play to take over like Earth or something, and to kill Johnny Blaze, even though Johnny Blaze is about to be killed by, Wolverine, Punisher, and Danny Ketch. Danny Ketch becomes the spirit of corruption, fights Johnny Blaze. Their fight is actually really cool because it's played out in this like double splash page, which is like it's a really cool visually stimulating fight, and it ends with Danny Ketch stabbing Johnny Blaze through the chest with the sword of corruption, taking all the corruption away from Johnny Blaze, and Johnny Blaze is back to being the Ghost Rider you all know, and no one knows who Ghost Rider is, to be fair, outside of like the Nicolas Cage films. He's back to being the regular Ghost Rider. He's not like corrupted anymore. He doesn't have like the horns coming out of the like crown thing. But yeah, we also have in the background, Blackheart has been going around with all of Danny Ketch's like supporting cast. And this book is definitely a Danny Ketch book. It's 100% a Danny Ketch book. Johnny Blaze is just like there to be something to fight, and he's like, yeah, he's corrupted, but he's also like your main character as well. But you also have to play him off as he's definitely the bad guy, and Danny Ketch is definitely the good guy. And I feel like Ed Brisson just wanted to write both, but he wanted for there to be a reason for them both to be in the same story. So I feel like the whole like build up to getting them to fight, it's not really shown off in the best way. Because like the only thing that tips us off to, yeah, Danny Ketch is, Johnny Blaze is corrupted, is the whole like using the Penance Star on Wong and almost killing Doctor Strange. That's the only thing that tips you off. Everything that he's doing to all the other demons, it's nothing different than what he would usually do. So I feel like those kind of sequences are a bit forced. But again, the writing is perfectly fine in those scenes because you actually get to feel like, yeah, there's actual anger behind Danny Ketch or behind Johnny Blaze. I'm getting confused because the two of them, and I feel like that's the reason why Danny Ketch becomes this spirit of corruption, because they both look the same. As like Johnny Blaze and Danny Ketch Ghost Riders, they both look the same. It's just one of them has a different style of jacket. But all in all, they both look the same. It's just they both got different bikes. One's got a Harley Davidson, the other one's got something that's a bit more custom. But at the end of the day, I feel like making Danny Ketch something different entirely, it helps to separate that character, because you have Jaime Reyes, who has the car that's different. He's also a lot younger. His actual design of Ghost Rider is more robotic than like human skull, so it's visually different from Johnny Blaze. Danny Ketch was never that visually different. He was just almost the exact same as like the design for Johnny Blaze. So making him a completely different character helps for the actual reader to differentiate who's who, especially when they're fighting. But again, the whole Blackheart thing. Blackheart's been going around the supporting cast of like the Danny Ketch portions of the book, because Johnny Blaze doesn't have a supporting cast in this. He's just going around killing everyone. Danny Ketch has like his bartender, because he now owns a bar that he can't actually afford, But it's also shown that he's beating up his customers. But his bartender gets possessed by Blackheart, and then they go to the house of his ex-girlfriend, Danny Ketch's ex-girlfriend, and possess her as well. And by the end of issue 7, Blackheart's just in the bar like, "You're going to help me become the rightful king of hell, because A, I want you to, B, if you don't, I will kill everyone you love." It's just these two people. It's like these are the only two people that you actually care about. But yeah, I enjoyed Ghost Rider. I'm interested to see where they go with this, because it feels like now the book is actually diverging into two different parts. We're going to be following Johnny Blaze doing his thing, and we're going to be following Danny Ketch doing his thing. Right now, it's been very much just they're both, going in the same direction, but now they're both going in insanely different directions that are going to lead in the same place. But I don't think we're actually going to see Danny Ketch and Johnny Blaze actually interact with each other for another few story arcs. That being said, I'm very interested to see how Ed Brisson actually takes the book forward. Is it going to be, we're going to have one issue dealing with what Danny Ketch is doing, one issue dealing with what Johnny Blaze is doing, or are we going to have both stories intertwined with each other, or are we going to have one arc with Johnny Blaze and another arc with Danny Ketch? I would prefer to have both storylines running parallel of each other, and maybe end the next arc with one of the Ghost Riders dying, maybe, because I feel like you can't have the book go on for too much longer with both Ghost Riders being the focus, because now Johnny Blaze is back to being Johnny Blaze, and he's back to being not a villain anymore. Ed Brisson is probably going to put him more to the forefront of the book, because right now it's been Danny Ketch is your clear-cut hero, and he's the clear-cut main character, and he's the emotional weight that's going to keep you reading this book. And it's yeah, but at the end of the day, it's not that deep. It's just a load of action scenes and cool drawings. But it's also the best Ghost Rider book we've had in ages that's not Jaime Reyes. Because Jaime Reyes, when he was Ghost Rider, his main book was really good. It was probably the best Ghost Rider thing we'd seen in ages. But this is this is really good, but it's really good for different reasons. It's really good because it's a really good blockbuster. It's a really good blockbuster comic book event thing. It's bringing a load of characters together, having a big fight, and the actual stakes are high, but they're not that high. And it's also leading into some interesting things going forward that are going to lead to more big fights, flashy action, and some good art. And that's all I can really say from a comic book that I'm going to enjoy, as long as it's got a good action sequence, as long as it's got good artwork, and as long as the writing doesn't feel like it was written by a 2-year-old, I'm going to more than likely enjoy what you've written, or what is being presented to me. And Ghost Rider is at least what it's been, has been pretty good. It's not the best thing coming out of Marvel, but I don't think anyone expected Ghost Rider to be the best thing coming out of Marvel. Where it stacks up with the other Ed Brisson books that I've read, it's not better than Iron Fist. It's not better than his Iron Fist run, but I think it's a little bit better than his Cable. And his Cable was pretty good anyway. But yeah, this is really, really good for a Ghost Rider book. Again, Ghost Rider doesn't need to be the best thing coming out of Marvel. It just needs to be, it just needs to be somewhat interesting, have some good action, have some good art. And at the end of the day, what is Ghost Rider? He's a cool drawing meant to be a cool tattoo. That's what Ghost Rider's meant to be. He's not meant to be a deep, intrinsical character of the Marvel Universe. He's just meant to be a cool drawing. And this book, the main thing that it does is present cool drawings, really good artwork, and a story that's not too bad. But then again, I make the point that Ghost Rider doesn't have to be the best thing coming out of Marvel, but also Venom doesn't have to be the best thing coming out of Marvel, and it is. So yeah, part of me is okay with this being just good, but the other part of me wants it to get really, really good. And I think it can. I think it can if they do something really cool in the next arc. Because the first 7 issues, it's been 2 arcs in 7 issues. I feel like that's way too short an arc length. I feel like we need to get an arc that's actually. I know there's been the story has followed through each arc, but you have the build up to Danny Ketch becoming the Spirit of Corruption, and then you have the fight between Danny Ketch and Johnny Blaze, and basically Johnny Blaze versus the world, or World War Ghost Rider, essentially. And this book is not half bad. It's really actually quite good. So yeah, that's my takeaway of Ghost Rider issues 1 through 7 by Ed Brisson. I really liked it. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of Ghost Rider by Ed Brisson if you did read it. If you haven't, I recommend you give it a shot. It's not the best thing coming out of Marvel, but it's also certainly not the worst. There's certainly books that you can get that are lesser than this. There's also books that you can get that are better than this. Venom. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. Before I go, do check out my Twitch, my Instagram, my Twitter, and every other link that's in my description. And yeah, see you guys in the next video.